Rev up your engines! Today I talk about how some horrible mechanics are out there working on cars. I wouldn't even call them mechanics. I call them clowns. But in the case of this Nissan, oh, they don't know where this noise is coming from. Well, you can certainly hear it. Now, it'll go away as soon as it warms up. But these guys, they worked on it before. Replaced the alternator. Replaced the belt. Okay, it's still making the noise. But check this out. The fan belt's loose as can be. So I asked her, did the noise go away after they did the work? She said it did for a short time, but now it's back. Well, that's the mark of stupid, ignorant mechanics that don't know what they're doing. Nissan's an older car. It has two belts, and they both have to be adjusted. In the case of most modern cars, this is an '07 Matrix. It has an automatic tensioner. Almost all cars do today. You can see it's only got one fan belt. You can see the bolt sticking out down right there. There's an automatic tensioner. It automatically keeps the correct tensions. It's not too loose so it squeals, but it's not too tight that it'll burn the bearings out. They're good systems when they're made correct, but the old cars, you had to manually adjust the fan belts. It's simple to do, but when you install a new fan belt, there's something that a lot of younger mechanics don't know, no one ever taught them, is this. You get a brand new belt, it's gotta wear in and stretch a little. You put a brand new belt on, you gotta run it 15 to 30 minutes. It'll stretch a little, then you gotta make it a little bit tighter. They didn't do that, it stretched, and now it's making a noise. And these idiots are telling them, I don't know what's wrong with it. We changed that. Oh, it must be a pulley or something. Well, here's how easy it is to tighten. In this case, you just get a 14mm socket, and this is the tensioner right here. So the front, you just loosen the end bolt, you loosen that makes the pulley spin free, and then down here you'll see there is a notch. There's the bolt, you just have to tighten it up, and that pulls it tighter. In that case, the bolt you have to tighten is an 8mm. You're going to tighten it, so we got to turn it the other way. We're not loosening it, we're tightening it. But in this case, there's not much working room, so I got a little stubby one. That way I can tighten it without having to move a little. I can move it a bunch. And as you can see down here, I got to tighten it a whole bunch of times. That means it's extremely loose, and that's why the belt is squealing. Now, this is so many turns until that belt gets tight. You want to get it so you can just barely twist at 45 degrees. As you can see now, when I twist it here, I can just barely twist it 45 degrees. You got a long run of the belt right here, and you just twist. And when you see that belt right here, twist just barely 45 degrees, it's tight enough. Then, of course, you put the 14mm socket back on, and you tighten the front of the pulley so it stays in place. Now, start it up and see what happens. The noise has gone away. Now, granted, this is an old Nissan Sentra. It's 14 years old and 208,000 miles on it. Pretty much reaching the end of its lifespan. As you can see, it's got various oil leaks. There's a lot of leakage by the power steering pump. You can see all the goo down there. But replacing an alternator unnecessarily for noise that came back because they didn't tighten the fan belt correctly in the first place, didn't retorque it. Look, I've been working on cars for 53 years. Since most cars now have automatic tensioners, young guys don't even know about this stuff. They don't know that if you have a car like this that's older, when you put a new fan belt on, you put that fan belt on and you tighten it up so it's got that 45-degree flex. Then you run it for 15 minutes to half an hour. Heck, take it to lunch, do something with it. Then you retighten it to make sure, because if you don't, you'll end up getting the noise back, and people say, well, we changed this and this, it can't be that. Well, guess what? The brand new belt stretches. If you have a modern car with an automatic tensioner like this, you don't have to think about it. It automatically tensions. The only thing you worry about is it wearing out, like this Toyota one did when it had 250,000 miles on it. And yes, be forewarned, the Toyota dealer on this one charged over $1,200 to replace it on the V6 Toyota, so they can be expensive to replace. Maybe go back to the old day where you got to adjust it, but then you got to have old-time mechanics like me that know how to adjust them correctly and don't make them too tight and they ruin things, or too loose, like in this case, when then they make noise again and the guy says, I don't know, I changed those parts, why is it making a sound? Well, take it for a spin, see how the rest of the vehicle is. Notice the noise is gone, even though it's cold now. The idle's quite smooth. Sure, the dash is kind of falling apart, the plastic, but still got a reasonable amount of zip left in it. Handle's pretty good. I mean, they never rode that great in the first place, but handling good enough. We'll take a corner a little bit faster. The wheels aren't falling off, and I got total control driving it. Yeah, still kind of a fun little car to zip around in. We'll check the brakes out. Smooth stopping. And yeah, you can hear the power steering pump. Yeah, it's a little bit worn and it's a little bit leaky, but hey, fluid's cheap. That's where the oil's coming from that was around the power steering pump. And you can still have fun driving around. Nissan always made kind of zippy cars. Really, you step on the gas, it goes down the road, even though it's an automatic. Really, it still makes for a relatively economical runaround car for getting from here to there. Yeah, you gotta add engine oil as it burns it out, and power steering fluid as some of it leaks out, but hey, it's still a pretty dependable car as far as I can tell. We learned that some, in quote, mechanics don't even know how to properly tighten a fan belt these days. And two, these old Nissan Sentras can be decent knockaround cars. Yeah, you gotta add power steering fluid because that leaks. Costs a lot of money to put a pump on. Yeah, so it leaks a little. Who really cares? Burns a little bit of oil. 200,000 miles, but it still runs pretty good. Probably was sold a bill of goods for an alternator that it didn't need, and then who knows what else they would have attempted to sell her on top of that when all it was a loose fan belt that's very easy to fix. And with the price of new and used cars being astronomical these days, take care of an old thing like this. It can still go for many years. Just don't get ripped off by mechanics who are either crooks or just don't know what the heck they're doing anymore. Drive belts you adjust yourself is old technology. There's a lot of cars out there that still have it, and you gotta put them on and adjust them correctly. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Zoldo 3 says, which cheap brand new car should I buy? If you got a small budget, what would you get? A Chevy Spark, Mitsubishi Mirage, or Nissan Versa? They'd be 21 or 22 models. And would it better to grab them with a manual transmission? Quite a dilemma. All right, well, yes, if you could get it in a manual transmission, the cheaper cars have very cheap automatic transmissions, and they don't hold up. The standards are much more reliable. And I'd say, in that respect, get a Mitsubishi Mirage. I don't like the Mitsubishi automatics. I don't like the Nissan automatics. I certainly don't like the Chevy automatics. But the Mitsubishi with the standard transmission, I have had customers have Mitsubishi with standard transmissions. Got 300,000 more miles out of it because it was a standard. The ones that I have with regular automatic transmissions, forget it. They generally break 100,000 miles or a little bit more. They crap out and cost thousands and thousands to fix. But the standards, they're decent. Well, you think Americans are crazy with what they do to their cars? There's a South African who took a Toyota minivan and he shoved a V12 engine in it. And you can buy it. I mean, he's got it for sale. And he's asking 85 grand. Really not that bad when you consider the reason it's got a V12 engine. It's because those fancy Toyota Crowns, they're luxury cars they only sell in Japan. They have V12 engines, so it will fit in a Toyota product with some modifications. He's got 2 turbochargers on it. I mean, that would be one screaming van. Now, this dude, James, he's got a fleet of taxis. They use those for taxis in South Africa. And he decided, hey, first he was going to soup it up and put a turbo engine in it, 4-cylinder, and then he thought, what the heck? He got himself a V12 Toyota engine and put it in a van and put a couple of turbochargers on it, so it puts out 600 horsepower. Now, that's one family van that no one could whine about it not being fast enough, of course. You got a minivan with that kind of horsepower. I kind of wonder about how it would handle it. I would not want to take a corner fast in that thing. I would be very leery about it. Porsche injectors from a Porsche 997 Carrera. And it even has a Mustang rear end on it. It's rear-wheel drive from a Mustang GT. And strangely enough, it has leaf springs on all 4 corners with coilovers. Something's got to take all that power, otherwise it would flip over, obviously. He messed with the suspension too, but I still would wonder how that thing corners without tipping over with all that horsepower. But like I say, it's on Facebook Marketplace. He's asking like $85,000 for it, so if you want to get the killer Toyota van of all time with a V12 engine, you might check it out on Facebook. Jay Parizo says, I got worn hatch struts and it keeps falling down. You mentioned a device that makes dead hatch struts stay open. I can't find it. What is it? All right. Well, you got 2 choices. The easiest one is just have a small pair of vice grip pliers. And when you open it, just put the vice grip pliers on the rod, then it can't go down. And when you're done, you take the vice grip pliers and down it goes. Now, there are various devices out there, and there's too many to even talk about here. But what they all do is they just fit over the strut on one of the hatches and one of the struts. You don't need to put it on both, just one. And when you pick it up, when you get it to the top, it just clicks in place. And then when you loosen it, you just have to unclick it and let it go down. And there's a million of them out there. Just look at, you'll see. I have a plastic one in my old Celica that when you pick it up the whole way, the little plastic arm snaps in and then it stays. And then when you pick it up a little and pull the arm out of the way and it goes back down. There's metal ones you can buy. There's all kinds, and they all work pretty much the same way. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.